I think that the participants in this program have discovered, even in this first module, that some of these archival concepts can be very challenging. And so I'm thinking perhaps we should do a little recap and talk about what we see as the three most important takeaways that students should be taking from this module. And it all begins with custody. Custody is really about having the material, knowing where it came from, knowing where it's been before it gets to you. And we all know that custody, like possession, is 9/10 of the law. Custody is really, having custody of records is really how we know whether or not the records are authentic, whether or not they're reliable, whether or not they claim to be what they are, and most importantly, whether or not they belong in your collection. So what do you think about the next takeaway, Donna?
I think the most important concept that I would want to comment on is provenance. Provenance really is the most basic principle of archives. It's how we identify collections, it's how we organize them and make them available. So understanding the provenance of a collection is really the beginning of archival work. I'd also like to mention that provenance applies to all of our records, not just the marriage records that we've begun working with in this module, but all the records we find in all our offices are organized on the principle of provenance. So the really critical question for us when we look at records is, what office are these records from?
And so complementing provenance is the concept of original order. And although original order seems obvious because things can only be in one order, at the same time, sometimes it's a rather difficult concept to imagine, because you will often find things in so many different orders. You say to yourself, how can I possibly figure out what the correct order is? But the order in which records were created is really important, extremely important. In fact, it's critical, because if records reflect activities and actions of the person who created the records, then in order to understand those activities and those actions, you need to see and to understand the order in which those activities happened. And in that way, you can understand the event that the records are all about. And this event can be any manner of events. This event can be marriages. This event can be property, purchasing property. This event can be building something. There are so many events that happen in towns, and you only really understand the town and the town's identity if you can really get a good knowledge of everything that happened in the town. And of course, that's what these records are all about.